It is Tuesday afternoon. The 49ers just announced their roster cuts. And so we're here to talk about that and move through it as it happens. If you're watching on YouTube, which if you're watching, you are, hit that like button, listen to the pod. Appreciate that as well. All right, here is the way they put it out is they put out the players that are gone, and then you must fit together the players that remain. So, not gone is Ambry Thomas, who broke his arm, is gone Rocky Sin. It had broken earlier in the day that Danny Gray would be waived by the 49ers. There's, for those of you watching, there's two lists. There's the players that are released. Those players become free agents. Then there's the players that are waived. Those players must clear waivers to return. So the notables there, Jalen Graham, Danny Gray was probably the biggest name there, the third-round pick, who had come back, I thought, ready to work this year, but unfortunately, just still not a consistent enough pass catcher. Jarrett Kingston gone, waived. Cameron Latu waived. Tanner Mordecai waived. Drake Nugent waived. Mason Pline, the tight end, waived. Cody Schrader, the running back, waived. Braden Willis waived. Samuel Womack. So those guys could reappear. They could appear on practice squad. I'm sure the Niners are hoping for several of those guys to get the practice squad, like Cody Schrader. Maybe a little surprising to see Braden Willis waived. But then you get into the releases, and you see Eric Saubert and Logan Thomas. You go, wait a second. What's happening here? And it takes some guessing. If there's some reporting on this as we're talking, then let me know and we'll update. But my guess here is that there is some manipulation going on with the roster. As of this moment, they only have George Kittle and Jake Tonjes, which credit to him. On their 53-man roster, those are the only two tight ends. They just brought Logan Thomas back recently, a couple days ago. And I thought that Eric Saubert looked like the clear tight end too for them. And the players that are released are free to do whatever they want. So my guess is we'll see both or one of those tight ends that are on the release list, Saubert and Logan Thomas, back after maybe the Niners had to put a couple guys on the 53-man roster before moving them to IR. And then once they move them to IR, maybe they bring a couple of those released players back. You can agree with the waived players. It's out of your hands. Now you're holding your breath and hoping that those guys, whichever ones you want on practice squad, clear waivers. To some degree, it's like that with the released guys, but you could say to a released guy, hey, hang tight for 24 hours. We got to do this thing, and then we'll sign you back. So I don't know. I don't know that's what's happening, but that seems like the logical explanation. This year in the NFL, is many people who cover the team have explained, we've talked about a little bit, you get two guys that you can put directly on IR without putting them on the 53-man roster first, two spots. The Niners may have more than two guys that need that. The other thing, and a few people have noted this, what's interesting, Elijah Mitchell went on the physically unable to perform list without a designation to return this year. So he, for everybody that said you should have traded Elijah Mitchell that week he was healthy, that's a win for you. That's a win for you. Now, do they think there's the other thing is, do you think there's players out there that are getting waived or released that you like? Could be. I don't think it's a particularly impressive list of tight end. It's not really, there's not CJ Uzomah. I can never say it. Sorry, CJ. From the Jets, just got cut by the Eagles today. Uzomah. But it's not a great list of now available tight ends. Somebody in the chat said clearing space for Freiermuth in a trade for Aiyuk. Is Freiermuth? I saw somebody suggested he gets traded to the Giants. I don't know. I mean, we're spitballing here. Is Ambry about to go on IR? Ambry Thomas made the 53-man over Rock Ya-Sin. He's got a broken arm. So it may be that he's on the 53. He's going to go on IR, and then Rock Ya-Sin gets signed back. Right? That could be. Or Chase Lucas clears waivers, and Rock Ya-Sin signs with someone else, but Chase Lucas clears waivers, and you put him on practice squad, and you bring Eric Saubert back, or that sort of thing. So that's where I think that's at, because it's pretty alarming to look up and see the 49ers with 2 tight ends. So that would be that's kind of my guess there. I would think they'd love to have Mason Plime back. They did not play him much. He was in on the band is on the field play at the end. So are they trying to IR him? Sorry, not IR him. I'm looking at a comment here about Ambry and Feliciano getting IR'd. Are they trying to sneak him to practice squad? Yeah. Tonjes, that's really impressive. I did not see him, even if a couple of these other guys are back, to see him over, not Latu. That doesn't surprise. A little on Willis is surprising, but I mean, if that last preseason game, the starters started, and who was playing? It was Tonjes. So sometimes they tell you what they're going to do. Great news for the Niners with Jacob Cowing. They didn't want to have to get to this point with him and Pearsall hurt and have to make some uncomfortable decisions to keep guys around who aren't ready to contribute. But the fact that Jacob Cowing, forget about how good he looked as a receiver. That does matter. The fact that he looked as good as he's looked as a punt returner, not just in games, but in practices, makes it easy to say, great, he is going to be the punt returner on game day. Unless, maybe Pearsall becomes the punt returner on game day. At this point, feels like Cowing is more likely to make the 46-man roster than Ricky Pearsall week 1. So there's that. The Danny Gray selection. The Danny Gray selection. It was not great from the start, and it never got much better. And I think we could probably make some general conclusions about it that maybe are unfair, because my first general conclusions are sometimes when you're drafting for a specific trait, in this case, speed, you pass up just better receivers. You're trying to nail a particular trait because he had the 4th, I think, fastest time at the combine in his draft. So that's part of it. It was not a very good receiver draft. Romeo Doubs was the best receiver that went after Danny Gray. Very different kind of skill set, right? He's not a fast guy per se, but he's a good player. Scored 8 touchdowns for the Packers last year. If you had said we're just looking for the best receiver you can find, not a specific skill, right? You think back to what was being thought then. What was being thought then is, we got this quarterback named Trey Lance, and he's got a big arm. And so we're going to get him this really fast guy. And Danny Gray and Trey Lance are going to make it rain for years to come. But did not work out that way. Are Brock Purdy and Brandon Aiyuk going to make it rain for years to come? We'll see. Brock Purdy and Ricky Pearsall are going to make it rain for years to come. We'll see. Question on the stream from S. Flood. So what are the roster spots for Brandon Aiyuk and Trent Williams? So Brandon Aiyuk is on the 53-man roster. Trent Williams is not on the 53-man roster, has not reported yet. Ayuk's there. Remember, he's just dealing with a back injury. Trent Williams is not going to be on the 53-man roster at this point. And then when and if he shows up, normally he drives an electric Rolls Royce, but this time he'll drive a Brinks truck if he arrives. Then they will have to make another 53-man move. So, this is not the final quote unquote 53-man roster because things will change. And I think even without Trent Williams reporting the next day or two, they'll change in the next day or two because I can't see this, the tight end thing. There's got to be a couple more moves here. Gorshak says Tatum Bethune making the roster is pretty cool. Tatum Bethune making the roster is pretty cool. Yeah. I know, and I've mentioned this recently, I know there's a lot of optimism about the 49ers' most recent draft class, and rightful to be optimistic about it. I think some of the reaction to it has gotten a little too far ahead of like, well, looking like, they nailed this class outside of the first pick. We'll see. These guys still have to play games. But right now it's very promising what they feel comfortable with Renardo Green. It's promising how comfortable they feel with Malik Mustafa. Obviously, Dominic Pooney is more than promising. Isaac Garendo, I think, looks pretty promising. Now, but he's had a history of hamstring injuries. He had a hamstring injury, so he's got to remain healthy. But him on kickoff return, you feel pretty good about that. Jacob Cowan. I mean, you are going to have in a position that it feels like the Niners have always been a little weak or have kind of ignored, or it's been an afterthought. You have 2 4th-rounders handling the ball for you on kickoff and punt return, in all likelihood. Cowing on punt return and Garendo on kickoff return. So, is that a level of trust? Is that a level of desperation? Is it a little of both? I view it as healthy. I mean, you need to be able to populate your roster when you have an expensive roster with young players. But you can't sacrifice your team for it. So you get into some bad spots when the bottom of your roster, NFL rosters are really small. 46 guys on game day is really small. The bottom of your roster plays. It's why there's still starters in games when there's blowouts. The bottom of your roster still plays. So in critical times. So it's really important that the 45th, 46th guy is a contributor. And the fact that they feel like, and I feel the same, by the way. I think they're correct. I think you can trust Jacob Cowing on punt return. And the reason I say that, it's not just what we've seen in games. I watched last week the 49ers go through punt return drills on what was a very windy day on the practice field. And Jacob Cowing was just as good as Trent Taylor. And it was a day that Ronnie Bell and Danny Gray really struggled with the wind. So I think Jacob Cowing has a we'll get into like the stadiums and windy days and Monday nights and, we'll see bright lights. So it'll be big tests for these guys, but it's fun, and forget about just fun. It's healthy for a roster to be able to have rookie players that step in and contribute right away. And, the way you see it now on Monday Night Football against the New York Jets, you're probably going to have 5 guys active on the 46-man roster? 4 at least, I would say. That's significant. One of them starting, and then if you call kickoff return starting and you call punt return starting, 2 more starting. Tatum Bethune, 7th-round pick 251. Okay, pick 251. 262 is not that far off from 251. So significant to see him make the team. Comment from Karen: Packers cut both of their backup quarterbacks. Maybe Tanner Mordecai goes back to Wisconsin as a backup for Jordan Love. Who else I saw Nate Sudfeld got cut today. If the Niners are going to get a practice squad quarterback, Bailey Zappi got cut today. So, and obviously some of these guys on some of these teams, Sudfeld was a Detroit Lion. Some of these guys on some of these teams perhaps are, their teams are hoping that they end up back on their team. The thing here is like, if you're going to claim a guy, you're putting your own roster in a difficult spot. So I think the Niners have to feel pretty good that a lot of these guys that they waived will be able to return. Like I don't see how you're taking Latu right now. Right. Oh yeah. Packers traded for Malik Willis. That's right. They traded a 7th round pick for Malik Willis. Comment. Womack flashed one time during a prime game, so we wanted more. I also think their running back group, I was looking at a running back comment. Their cornerback group is really good. They've got a very good group of cornerbacks. Yadam healthy. We talked about this a little bit previously, but somebody asked the question: Isaac Yadam at corner, Diamador Lenore at nickel, and Mooney Ward at corner. Is that the best group of corners of the Shanahan era? And you go back to the Richard Sherman team in 19 with a young Emmanuel Mosley. But this might be the best collective group of cornerbacks that they've had. I think they're going to be really good at corner. Charlie with a super chat. What we got here, Charlie? Brendan Rice makes the 53. Gonna be a demon with 10. Is Herbert back in time for the Raider game? Is Herbert going to be back in time? Or is it going to be Easton Stick against Gardner Minshew? I'd read some reports that Brendan Rice wasn't getting the ball much. I didn't look at his stats, but the report also said he'd been blocking. He'd been a very impressive blocker and was running good routes. To me, there was not much doubt about him making the team, but excited to watch him. Alex Leatherwood got waived by the Chargers. Your Raiders once picked him in the first round. They also once took Colton Miller in the first round. I'm just going through some news here. Yeah, I think we're going to see a couple. I'm just scrolling my news feed, see what we got going here. By the way, while I'm doing that and letting that load, I want to remind you that I'm brought to you by the CIRCA Survivor and CIRCA Million contests. Thanks to CIRCA Sports for the sponsorship. You guys can go to Vegas to enter or go to Reno to enter. It's $1,000 to enter either the CIRCA Million or the CIRCA Survivor. CIRCA Million, you pick 5 games a week against the spread. The best record at the end of the year wins $6 million in guaranteed prizes. There's prizes throughout the season. Last place gets $100,000 in that one. You could, my idea was you split that with 4 buddies. You each pick a game a week. That's your 5 picks a week. There's also CIRCA Survivor. That's 1 pick a week. Try to go 20-0 or last as long as you can. And whoever lasts the longest wins. $10 million guaranteed to the winner or winners. You go to Nevada at CIRCA Sports. I know a lot of you are headed there before the season kicks off, some fantasy football drafts, that sort of thing. Go to CIRCA Sports. You sign up there. You sign up with a proxy there, and then you can play from anywhere. For more information, circasports.com and click on contests. So do that. And, I want to mention, I've been pushing you guys to the to the website, heyguy.co, because that's where soon we'll be selling these 262 hats. And I thought we'd be able to put them up for sale last week. They've been slightly delayed, but hopefully we're going to get my goal right now is to get them photographed and up on the website for next week. That's the goal right now. So we just had to work through a little threading issue. But the reason I brought it up was not to keep telling you the same thing there. If you go to heyguy.co, there's a couple other things I've added to heyguy.co. One of them is I make for myself a 49ers schedule. And on that schedule, it has the primetime games that they play. It has primetime games that other teams in the league play. It also has the scheduling rules. So, like when a game can be flexed, when a game can't be flexed, when can Sunday be flexed, when can Monday be flexed, all that sort of stuff. I've made that available to you guys. You can go get this schedule for yourself. You just go to heyguy.co. There's a section at the top that says like custom Niner schedule, and you can just download it. It's got a link, and you can download it there. Do whatever you want with it. So go check that out. Heyguy.co. Click on the tab at the top, and it'll tell you to click a link, and then you get the PDF, and you can it'll be a high res, and you can put it on your desktop or print it out, or whatever. And I also have my personal football schedule on there. Some of you guys like to ask, hey, what's the deal? Are you calling a game this week? Like this week, I'm calling the Oregon game, 4:30 Big Ten Network Saturday, 4:30 Pacific. So I'm also calling SC in week 2, Nebraska week 3. That's all. That schedule's up there now on heyguy.co. That's not an ad. Somebody's like, I can't stand the ads. That's not an ad. It's a free schedule download. You can go get it. Jerry said, Tyler says Frank Gore Jr. over Patrick Taylor Jr. I got to tell you guys, I kind of liked Patrick Taylor Jr. in practice. Frank Gore Jr. did get released. Also, by the way, Trevor here says can't stand ads. You're welcome, Trevor, to send, you want to send $100, and then we can make it free for Trevor. We can do that. Also, by the way, there's a reason I pay for YouTube Premium. I'm just telling you, it's a good. They're not a sponsor, not an ad. It's a good use of 15er. This is a big week for me because I got that football game, and you guys know I like to get my haircut every week. My barber Laz, T's and P's up to Laz. Little irresponsible on his part, I gotta say. Tore his Achilles playing pickup hoops last week. So he's on the IR. My barber is starting the football season on the IR. Bad news. And that means that I had to go to a brand new barber today, somebody I'd never met before. It's terrifying. But you know what? I know I've got a very good breakdown description of what it is we're going for. And H did a hell of a job. So I'll probably have to go back to H next week because my Laz can't stand up. Come on, man. I can't stand. So barber starting the year. Pup with a designation to return for the barber. This is terrifying today. You trip and said, how did Ambry Thomas make the team? And somebody else asked, what's going on with the tight end? So as people are jumping in here, I say it at the beginning, but my guess is we'll see Ambry moved and one of these tight ends or two of these tight ends come back to the fifth. I think there's just a little shenanigans is not the word because it's totally legit, but they're just moving some things around. That's my guess, but let's keep an eye out on what's going on out there. All right, our guy Lombardi, he tweeted, somebody just tagged me. Eric Saubert and Rocky Sin seem like the two most obvious wink re-sign candidates once Ambry Thomas and John Feliciano maybe head to IR. Common procedural maneuver. So there you go. There's Lombardi's insights. Get Lombardi to go live with you. You get Lombardi. You go get Lombardi. I can't do. You go send Lombardi. Is he live right now? Let me see. Let's send him a message. Hold on here. Oh, he's not live right now. It's probably in a self-driving vehicle or in the water. Basie Man says, do you Ambry Thomas, Jake Brendel taking precious roster spots? Well, I don't think Ambry Thomas will be. And Jake Brendel's your starting center. He's not taking a precious roster spot over promising prospects. He's your starting center. Do you write off your haircuts? I don't. Because I'm not a whatever it's called, Prop 46. No, S Corp. The thing about my barber getting hurt is it costs me money because, as some of you who are OGs know, I have a haircut agreement with my barber. I'm in year 3 of a 4-year unlimited haircut contract with my barber. So when he's out with an injury, that's money out of that's money out of my pocket to go get my haircut. You know what I mean? As it relates to, I'd rather roll with Nugent or someone else. I mean, everyone is always so quick with this Niners offensive line to just run guys out when you've got a starter at center versus a rookie who they did not keep on the 53. Now, they may bring him back and put him on practice squad, but, I mean, it's pretty clear we've all had time. We've all had time to observe Kyle Shanahan. And I think one thing we can say pretty comfortably is, for the most part, now Trent Williams, the best offensive lineman, you go get him, they got him. But for the most part, they don't think about their free agents when it comes to offensive line. They don't really. I mean, he went and got Alex Mack a few years ago to play center for him at the end of his career, a guy he knew. But they don't go spend big in free agency. It's the actions tell us that he believes he can kind of do whatever he needs to do with his quarterback, with his receivers, with the scheme, and not have to spend a large allocation of his cap on the offensive line. So let me pull up something I was going to pull up here a second ago. Where'd this go? All right. Let's see what else we got. Here we go. Question. Where did it go? Somebody asked a good question. Here we go. Emron says, thoughts on 7 receivers? Well, one of those receivers, good question. One of those receivers is Brandon Aiyuk. So you have 6 guys. You got to practice. You have 6 guys right now. Ricky Pearsall, he's back, but there's no real guarantee yet. He's got to get the blue jersey off, get back to practicing, get back to blocking, have that shoulder not pop out again. There's the real possibility. I mean, it's just the thing that happened to him in practice that caused the shoulder injury was not some crazy high impact play. So I think they're really protecting themselves here. Debo, Aiyuk, Jennings, Pearsall, Cowing, Conley. I thought they would keep, what did I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I had them at 6, obviously. So this is part of why they're squeezed probably at tight end also. But, if Aiyuk is healthy, then they're probably not in this position, but are available. I mean, healthy. I mean, he's got a back. He's got a back. It feels like it has a lot to do with Aiyuk, but I would say it also has something to do with Ricky Pearsall. I hate to sound pessimistic. Well, I don't hate to sound pessimistic, He's back, and that's good, but I really think you have to protect yourself against him getting hurt again. I like Ricky Pearsall, the player. I was fine with the pick, given the circumstances. I know there wasn't total agreement on this. I thought he showed some promise during practice. I saw a guy that got open and that caught the ball. And I think that is very useful on this team. But I'm very concerned that he's not going to be healthy. And I think they should be too. And I think they should protect themselves as well. And I think they are protecting themselves. Again, just remember, when you see the list of players available, release means free agent. The Niners can have an agreement with that player that they're going to re-sign them. Waived means must clear waivers before the Niners can put them on practice squad. So that's where I think, at tight end, that's what's going to end up happening there. They're not going to be a roster with 2 tight ends. Juice is worth every penny. Here's the thing with him. It's like Braden Willis was the backup fullback. Am I surprised with Tonjes? Yeah. You know what? Now today I would say less surprised, but like if you had said at the beginning of camp, this is what's going to happen, I'd go, really? Interesting. But again, when you watch that 3rd preseason game, he's out there playing right away. So that tells you a little bit of what they think about him. He's out there playing with Brock, right? That told you something. That told you we got to get this guy. This guy's going to play for us this year. So by the time that happened, but I would say, yeah, I'd be lying if I told you I wasn't a little surprised anyway. A lot of Pearsall pessimism. A lot of Pearsall pessimism. It's going to be a non-factor. It's a bad pick. Shoulder injury 2 years ago in college. 1 hit again. He'll be out indefinitely. They're going to get a lot of heat if the shoulder's really a problem. What other positions are interesting here? Safety. No surprises at safety, right? Although corner, no surprises there. I think in watching the preseason, those would have been the 6: Ward, Lenore, Yadam, Green, Luter, and Ambry Thomas. So I don't think there's any surprises there. The Bethune, I don't think is a surprise, but that's awesome for him, as we talked about earlier. Yeah, and the backs. I think they probably feel like they can get Cody Schrader through waivers. But I like their group. If Patrick Taylor, by another name, if his name was just X and you just watched him out there, I think you'd go, yeah, okay. So they're in great shape. All right. And Elijah Mitchell to IR. PUP. No, IR. We wrote out Danny Gray. Yeah. Go look at that 22 draft, the Danny Gray pick. It was just not a good draft to be taking a wide receiver, especially a wide receiver outside of the first round. Although honestly, taking a wide receiver in the first round on that draft would have been scary. Let me read you some of these names here. You're not going to be impressed. Where are these receivers, man? Come on, man. disappointing. I told you guys I had written him off before this camp, and then when I saw him, I thought he's really put in the work. I feel bad because he clearly it wasn't for a lack of effort, but because his body, he was in great shape. He practiced really hard, like he clearly cared, but he just was not able to be a consistent route runner and pass catcher. Drake London, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave. Okay, Jamison Williams went 12th. Jahan Dotson, Traylon Burks, Kristen Watson, pick 42, Wan'Dale Robinson, John Mechie, Tyquan Thornton, George Pickens, a top 4 receiver out of that draft, really. The Niners take Danny Gray at 105. Eric Ezekama goes to Miami at 125. Romeo Doubs at 132. Calvin Austin. Khalil Shakir to Buffalo in the 5th round. But it's just not a good receiver draft. And they drafted for a need there that they thought was going to be a fit with a quarterback that end up being their quarterback. But honestly, if Danny Gray could get open and catch, he'd be fine. He'd work with Brock too. Like, you don't need Brock's arm is more than sufficient to be able to throw a deep ball to fast players. So who are some of the guys drafted after Danny Gray? Let's see here. Damian Pierce, the running back from Houston, went 2 spots later. Anybody they really missed out? Jake Ferguson went in the 4th round, the tight end for Dallas. Niners drafted Spencer Burford later. Whatever. Yeah. It's too bad. Wonder if the Chiefs would pick up Danny Gray. They got rid of Kadarius Toney. Would Houston? Would Washington? Is there somebody somewhere else that really liked him? Practice squad predictions, Rich asks. Rich asks. Yeah, I mean, Pline. Latu. I mean, a lot of these guys, honestly. Is Tanner Mordecai going to make it through? Yes. Cody Schrader. Did I say Schrader? The O-lineman, I mean, if they can get both of them, I think they would. Kingston and Nugent. Tay Martin's been a guy they keep around. Jalen Mahoney. Yeah, why not put him out there with Tank Dell? Run him around with Nico Collins. Why not? I don't know. Charles says they pick up Danny Gray and he catches a tight end. They just touchdown against the Niners. They just signed Juju. And yeah, I don't know if Rashee Rice is going to make it back at any time. So anyway, all right. I think that's that for this. Appreciate y'all hanging out, supporting the show, clicking links, supporting sponsors, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, we got a lot of stuff going on, y'all. A lot of stuff. I'll talk to. I'm sure we'll see some more news soon. Brandon asked, "Do you see us picking up Frank Gore Jr.?" Thanks for the super chat, Brandon. I do not. But it'd be cool. All right, that's that for this. There'll be more news, more stuff